Another training session in the books. Let's talk about it. So today, Tuesday, this training session, I thought it was going to be mainly full ground sort of stuff that we kind of saw from last week. They changed it around a bit. It was, if yesterday's was like fundamental skills, this was just like a couple of steps above it. There were little drills that they were doing right at the end, right before the end. They were doing sort of kind of little match sim sort of things, from running it out of halfback, or turning it over and kicking for goal, and then right at the end they were just doing run through. So they're called I call them suicides. I think that's the old way of calling them, just like up and down, like shuttle running, pretty much. And there was everyone was doing it. Lots of players gassed by the end of it, but some really good running. Reef was doing really well. Lipinski, Quaino, all these sort of guys that you sort of expect to do well were doing really well in that. Now, much like yesterday's video, I focused on a couple of players today, a couple of guys that you suggested, and someone that I really wanted to check out. So we'll start with the one that you suggested, Patrick Lipinski. So checked out Patrick Lipinski, and so it's his second day back. Obviously, he was with Quaino in the States. He's looking fitter, really. And how can you get fitter than the most beautiful man in the AFL? So, but he looks to come back really well. I think, based on these last 2 days, I think they will play him in that sort of Swiss Army knife, jack of all trades role that he was playing. So we know that from this season and a little bit of last season, Lippa would sort of float into that forward line, kick a couple of handy goals. This season, he did have that sort of shoulder injury that took him a while to get started, so he was kind of on the outer, but I think there definitely is a spot for him in our best 23. One of those role players that Craig McRae and the coaches really like, because he can play forward, he can play mid, and if we need him, not fully in the back line, but if we need him there for some reason, he can do that as well. Remember, in the grand final, he had that negating forward defensive role as well. So that really helps us. But I thought he did really well today. There were a couple of nice things in the half match sims that they were doing in the forward line, where he's kicking a couple of nice goals. He ran through the whole thing, didn't look gassed at all, so we can expect more of Lipinski's hard running, and he was tackling really well in the tackle drills. So Lipinski's last 2 days, I pretty much give it an 8.5 out of 10. I thought he did really well. Again, it's hard to sort of give you player focuses when they're not doing full match simulations, because it only is skill-based stuff, but you can still get little bits and little tidbits out of it. But I love that Lipinski and Quaino went to the States, did what they needed to do. They came back looking a lot fitter than they were, and now we're seeing Lipinski tackling hard, even though he's got that shoulder strapped, tackling hard, crumbing really well, and kicking a couple of goals during match sim. The other guy I wanted to look at was Mason Cox. Now, Coxie, it's hard, right? Because there's no way we're playing 6 talls in our forward line. We're not playing Membry, Myercheck, McStay, Cox, and Cameron all in the same team. That's not happening. So Coxie is the one for me on the outer, where it's probably him or Membry in the team. I don't think they can play in the team together. But Coxie's training over the last week and these couple of days, he hasn't really set the world on fire, but again, it's training. It's just fundamental stuff. He's doing all the fundamentals right. But he's just been there. I haven't really seen anything that would say, oh, Cox is definitely going to be put ahead of Membry based on what we're sort of seeing. So I think he still has a long way to go. Remember, he did do, what was it? Like didn't he partially tear his ACL, or, and then obviously coming back from that MCL that he did in Fremantle and the ribs and all this sort of stuff. He's still working himself into it. So we might see a little bit of a change in the coming weeks. But as of now, like as of today, seeing him, I'll probably give him like a 7 out of 10. Yeah, he hasn't really, but again, I say, oh, he hasn't really done anything. No one's really done anything, because it is no pressure. It's just all skills, right? So, take it sort of with a grain of salt. These are just my thoughts. But that's the biggest question. Does he command a spot in the best 23? And it could be his last year at the club, or just in AFL in general, because he's out of contract at the end of the year. So does he command a spot in the best 23 ahead of someone like Membry? Are we playing Darcy Cameron and Mason Cox? At the moment, based on the 5 training sessions that I've been to, I don't think so, but we are a better side when he is in the side. So it is a hard one, and thankfully I'm not a selector. The last guy I really focused on today was Ash Johnson. Now, Ash, we know Ash is much maligned at the club by the fans, right? So Ash, the big knock on Ash is his consistency. He can't do it week in, week out, but when he gets going, he absolutely gets going, and he just adds such a dynamicism. Dynamicism, is that a word? To our forward line. I don't even know if dynamicism is a word. I'm not going to check it out because that's actually, if it's not a word, it's a pretty cool word if it's not a word. Because aren't all words just made up anyway? Anyway, I digress. So Ash Johnson was delisted, still has a year to run on his contract, was delisted. The club will re-rookie him. And he's really trying his hardest this last week and a half. Everything that I've sort of seen from Ash is him pretty much going at, anywhere between 80 to 100%. Another knock on him is that he hasn't got a big tank on him. And you can kind of see that he's kind of, when they're doing the shuttle runs and whatever that may be, and the 2K time trial, he's always towards the back. But in saying that, that's not his game. His game isn't to be a gut runner in the forward line. His game is to, use his aerial ability, which he's great at. He's got good hands, can find a goal, got good footy IQ. It's just his consistency. And now that he's, from what I've seen, his last 5 training sessions, and especially today, doing the little things well, I don't think he dropped one ball today. And I'm pretty sure he hit at least 95%, maybe even 97% of the targets that he was kicking at. So doing these little things great will go a long way into his season. But as a rookie and with Tim Membry coming in, he would need to do a lot in the VFL to push out a Tim Membry because McStay's not getting pushed out. Myercheck isn't getting pushed out. It's Membry, Cox, and Ash Johnson vying for that third tall spot, in my opinion. Ash Johnson could get it, but he needs to show a lot in the VFL, or it probably will be his last year at the Pies, as much as I love him. But he hasn't put a foot wrong this preseason. He's really hitting it hard, and you absolutely love to see it. A couple of other things to mention. Harvey Harrison is not fully running, but he's running. He did a lap around the oval. The boys all cheered him and clapped him and stuff. That's really cool coming back from his ACL. I feel like he could be, he could have been anything this year. Unfortunately, not because of that ACL. Will Parker has gone from 45 to 15 in his jumper number. So that pretty much indicates to me that he's going to be playing quite a bit this season, I think, anyway, going for a smaller number. If not this season, he will start playing little bits and pieces here and there, and then getting more games as the season goes ahead. Because he's still young. Remember, he came back from cricket. He was touted as a top 20 pick. We got him as a Cat B rookie. But all in all, I think it was a really good training session. It was good to see some of the older guys there. Scott Pendlebury, Steele Sidebottom, Jeremy Howe, all doing their thing. Everyone is due back on Monday, and that's when I'm pretty sure the Dacos brothers come back on Monday. I know they're flying back now. I don't know if they're going to be there on Friday, but they will be there on Monday, definitely, when everyone's back. Jordan De Goey is back as well. Well, not training, but Jordan De Goey is back in Melbourne. And he'll be there on Monday as well after spending most of this month, going over his hamstring issues, going over his groin issues, and everything that sort of kept him out this season. Another thing that I want to note, which I think I talked about in maybe the first or second preseason diary, is this emphasis on tackling and looking at the player as opposed to looking at where the ball is. Because again, these last couple of seasons, I'd love to know, I can't get the stat. Champion data doesn't give you the stats, but if we could see how many broken tackles we've had, like of opposition players going through us or missed tackles, we'd be right up there, at least in the top 4, because I felt like this season we just couldn't really stick tackles, and that is our bread and butter. There were some games where we could, and there's some games where we couldn't. Matthew Boyd has come in and put a real emphasis on tackling and looking at the player as opposed to just looking at the ball, because you can sell candy pretty easily, right? So looking at the play, looking at their eyes, looking at their movement, and then tackling them. So I like that very much, and you probably will see our tackling count go up and that pressure count go up. Speaking of tackling and pressure, Lockie Schultz was another guy that I was not fully looking at, but when he was there, I was sort of looking at him as well. He looks fit. He looks ready to go this season after, getting compared to Ginnivan last season and the first round draft pick and all this sort of stuff. That's all behind him now. He'll hit it really hard. Was tackling like an absolute beast today. But anyway, guys, on Friday, I'm going to change these up a little bit for Friday's one. I might do like a swooping around or something. So if you're there, be sure to come and chat to me. I don't know how I'm going to do it because it's just me. I might have to get one of you guys to hold the camera for me. But be there on Friday if you're not there. Wear lots of sunscreen because it's going to be like in the mid-30s. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your pets. And until next time, double shackers. I'll swoop you later.